Mother, here we are at your home in Cleburne, Texas. The date is May 6, 1998, and I understand you're going to bring us up to date from 1935 to the present. That's a long, long time. So why don't you just go ahead and start talking about it, and I'll ask questions, later on.
Okay. Well, we moved back to La Mesa in 1935. 3 years later, in 1938, we had a new home, a new business, and a new baby.
I think that was me, wasn't it?
That's right. Bailey Duane Whitlow.
And you had another child, too, the next year, I believe?
Yes, in 1939, we had a beautiful baby girl, Charlene. And you two were our pride and joy from the time you were born until this day.
Daddy, what was he doing for a living? Why don't you tell us about his business?
He built this building on Dallas Avenue and put in his business. He charged batteries and sold batteries. That was his first project.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, he repaired starters and alternators and generators for the farmers. They'd bring their work in from, take them off their tractors and bring them in for him to repair.
Mm-hmm.
And he stayed in this business for 53 years.
I would call that a success.
He enjoyed his work. He enjoyed talking to the farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, he was doing business even with their children and then even their grandchildren.
Well, staying in business that long, I can see that would happen.
Yes.
Now, he also bought a farm at one time, too,
Yes, he bought a farm, and that was his real hobby.
Uh-huh.
He loved to work out at the farm. Now, he had most of the work done by the area farmers, but he did own a tractor and a cultivator and a sand fighter.
Can you explain to people who don't know what a sand fighter is and give an example of a sand fighter and what it does?
Well, whenever we had a rain and the land dried just a little bit and the wind started to blow, the sand would just crawl along the top of the ground and would burn and kill the cotton. So the sand fighter had to be run right then.
That kind of broke up the clods, didn't it, or something? The crest, crust, I guess you would call it, of the ground, and stopped the sand from blowing.
Yeah, and that kept the sand from blowing. And he had to do that because the other farmers would be busy with their own crop at that time.
Right. Well, how big was this farm?
It was 50 acres. And it was a 50-acre cotton farm, which is not considered a very big farm. But when you were working out there sometime during your high school years, you said it was a lot of land when you were traveling driving a tractor up one road and down the other.
I remember that very well. Sure. Well, now we lived on North 3rd Street, if I remember, and I can remember all kinds of kids, our age. Well, what about all these?
There were 6 families in our immediate area that had children about the age of you and Charlene. And each family had a dog. And whenever I wanted to see where y'all were playing, well, I'd just look out the door and see where the dogs were.
And that's where the kids would be.
That's where the kids were. It was a wonderful time and a wonderful neighborhood for children.
You recall other activities that we were involved in and all that stuff?
The Scouts and the PTA, and the church. And, we were busy with you two and all of the activities.
Well, one of the things that I remember so much is our trips every summer. What do you remember about those?
Yeah. Well, Joe Baby would close up the shop, and we'd take a trip every summer. We went to the East Coast to Florida, then we went south to Mexico, and we went west to the Pacific Coast. And in those days, the cars didn't have air conditioning. And it was pretty hot traveling, but we went anyway. And on one trip, we were traveling down the coast from Washington and Oregon down through the redwood forest, and we met our neighbors. They were coming up the coast, and we recognized them in their car as we met. And I told Joe Bailey, I said, "That's the Prices." And he said, "Yes." So we turned around. We had just passed an eating place, so we turned around, and they had parked there, and we parked there, and it was a great time.
If I remember correctly, John V. and I got lost or something, or we weren't there on time, and Azalee, what did she do to call him or something?
She went out, started yodeling and calling y'all. She was quite a singer.
I remember her having a very beautiful voice, I sure do. Well, let's see, I graduated in 1956 and then went on to Texas Tech in 1960. What did Charlene do all this time?
Well, you graduated from Tech in 1960, and she graduated from high school in 1957, and she went to Tech for a while, but she was in love. So she and Sammy got married in February of 1958.
And during this time, I think I had gone down to the Beaumont to be at J.C. Penney, and then, of course, I was fixing to be drafted, so I joined the Marine Corps, and then whenever I got back out of the Marine Corps, Daddy helped me establish a business.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, you built a new building and put in your business in 1962 at Welch. And we were really proud of you.
Time was moving on. Charlene and I were grown, and about that time, I think when you all got rid of us, you bought another house or built another house or something.
Yes, we had lived in our house on North 3rd for 22 years. And we built this new house on North 18th. And we were busy at the shop and with our church activities. We belonged to a supper club. And we'd go bicycle riding with the Clemenses late in the evenings. And I still went to my Wednesday club each week, which I had belonged to for 50 years.
I'm going to really put you to the test now. Can you name all your grandchildren?
Yes. Barry was born in 1960. He was the first.
I don't expect you to do dates, but you can try.
Well, anyway, Canaan came along 3 years later. And then the next year, Steve was born. And then the next year, Kevin. They were born in the fall. And I remember that we had made a picture of each of those three babies under the Christmas tree for 3 years. And then Lacey was born in 1972.
Well, I think you got them all. That's probably better than I could do. Have you enjoyed your grandchildren? Have you been able to see them and things like that?
I have really enjoyed them. And my mother used to say that she felt sorry for anybody that didn't have children because they didn't have grandchildren. And now I even have 4 great-grandchildren.
Well, now, I had moved, of course, to Dallas-Fort Worth area, I believe in '64, and Charlene and Sammy in '68. So that left y'all out in Lamesa kind of all alone, except with your friends. What do you remember about those years?
Well, we just continued our
your church and supper club and all that stuff.
And in 1983, we celebrated our 50th anniversary.
I remember that well. Tell us about that.
You and your family and Charlene and her family hosted us at the Sands Motel in Abilene. And for a wonderful dinner and a wonderful weekend. And then in 1988, we went back there and celebrated our 55th anniversary.
Now, did you help Daddy at the shop any during these years?
Yes, I said I helped, and he said yes. I came down every morning, and he would put a out for coffee,
Out for coffee
sign in the window, and we'd go out for coffee. And his customers soon learned that where to find him if they wanted some work done.
Well, let's see, by 1990 then, of course, Daddy's health was failing at that point.
Yeah, and
so what happened then?
he had to quit work, which was quite a blow because he really enjoyed his work. That was really his life.
Right.
But he sold the business and leased the building to a young man. I believe that was in about 1991.
Yeah.
And then in 1992, his health was worse.
Yeah.
And so we were riding around one morning, and I said, what do you think about us moving down to the kids? He said, you know, I'm thinking just the same thing. He said, why don't you call Charlene and tell her to find us a house? So I called her. They were living in Alvarado at that time. And she said, Mother, do you mean it? And I said, yes. I said, find us a house in Cleburne. I said, that's close to Alvarado. And Barry and his family lives in Cleburne. And it has an airport, so Duane can fly over to see us.
So Charlene and I looked and we found this house.
That's right. And we never saw the house till we moved in it. But it was a good choice.
That's putting a lot of trust in your children.
It sure is. And in 2 weeks from the time we started talking about moving, we had sold our house in La Mesa. Y'all had made arrangements for us to buy this house in Cleburne. And we were ready to move.
So, if I remember correctly, I think I had Conrad and Kevin with me on the plane. We flew out to La Mesa, and Barry and Sammy and everybody came, and we packed you up and moved you out here like in 1 or 2 days. I think we had you all.
Just one day.
Yeah.
Sammy and Charlene and Steve.
Steve, yeah.
Brought a U-Haul truck. And they arrived on Saturday morning, and you and Conrad and Kevin flew out, and the 6 of you loaded the truck, and by noon we were ready to go. And
if I remember correctly, I think I had Conrad and Kevin with me on the plane. We flew out to La Mesa, and Barry and Sammy and everybody came, and we packed you up and moved you out here like in 1 or 2 days. I think we had you all.
Just one day.
Yeah.
Sammy and Charlene and Steve.
Steve, yeah.
Brought a U-Haul truck. And they arrived on Saturday morning, and you and Conrad and Kevin flew out, and the 6 of you loaded the truck, and by noon we were ready to go. And then we were here that night. Y'all went back to Plano. But then on Sunday, all of you and all the rest of the family came and unloaded the truck and put everything in place. And I'll always be grateful for all of my family for the wonderful help that all of you did. Well,
you, of course, had a terrible year in 1993 with Daddy's health failing, and he did pass away on was it January 15th, 1994. And so now you're alone.
Yeah. We'd been married for 60 years, but now I'm alone. But really not alone, because I have my family and I have my friends.
Well, Shorty and Sammy live here now.
Yes, they live here. And Barry and Deanne and the boys live here. And Steve and Debbie live in Stephenville. And we all get together, all of her family, nearly every Sunday for lunch.
Right.
And then, and she takes me shopping nearly every Thursday.
Charlene does.
We go to Fort Worth or Hillsborough or some other nice place and have a wonderful afternoon together.
Kathy and I, of course, still live in Plano. And,
Yeah. And you fly over every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And that's really a delightful time. You do things for me around the house and take me out to dinner. And then all of our family gets together once a year in April to celebrate Joe Bay's birthday and his memory.
Yeah, that's been you know, a good tradition, and I'm sure that Charlene and I will probably continue that. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't.
Then we get together at Christmas time, all of the family.
Well, I know whenever you and I go out to eat, you know, here in Cleburne, we can't seem to go into a restaurant, but what somebody in there, it seems like somebody in there will know you every time. You obviously have been busy since you have been in Cleburne.
Well, I've made a lot of friends, which I treasure. In my Sunday school class, and in our Evergreen Senior group at the church, and the other members of the church, and in my Newcomers Club.
That's a lot right there.
Yeah. Most of the newcomers in the Newcomers Club are also fairly new in Cleburne, and they have moved here to be near their families. So it's interesting to meet them and find out something about their lives. And we have a program once a month, and we play canasta twice a month.
You've also taken a few trips, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Can you name where you've been?
Well, I've been to Branson, Missouri twice.
Right.
I've been to Nashville, Tennessee once.
Right.
And I've been to Las Vegas once, besides a lot of other smaller trips.
Yeah, trips right close around here, just day trips.
And those have been sponsored by the banks.
The banks are very good to their customers around here. They sure are.
Well, it has really been.
Well, have you enjoyed your home and enjoyed Cleburne?
I certainly have. I've certainly enjoyed all of my friends, and but most of all, I've enjoyed my family. And I feel blessed.
Well, we feel blessed with you, and let's do this again in another 10 years.
Okay.
Okay.